Today, we have come together to apologize to every survivor who was abused during their time as a student at Dilworth School. We also acknowledge those survivors who have passed away and honor the memories of them in making our apology. Survivors are the most important people to hear this apology, and we honor them above all else. They are paramount, yet we must also acknowledge the impact that the abuse at Dilworth has had on other people and apologize to them too. We are apologizing to survivors' mothers, fathers, grandparents, families, and whānau. And again, we acknowledge and honor those who are no longer with us today. We are apologizing to all other old boys, parents, families, and whānau, past and present, former and current staff, the Dilworth students of today, and the school's supporters and valued community. We're also apologizing to our school's founders, James and Isabella Dilworth, and the memory of them. My name is Jonathan Mason, and I am the incoming chair of today's Dilworth Trust. I am joined in making this apology by my fellow trustees, current chair Aaron Snodgrass, deputy chair Peter Alexander, Leo Foliaki, and John Morris. Background, I've been in New Zealand for 20 out of the 25 last years, originally from the United States. Have been on the trust board since 2019, focused on redressed issues, among other issues, for all of that time. And I would like to pass on my apologies. There was a hui in early November. I had a personal medical commitment and could not meet with some of you who are here today. So back to the apology. As a board, we are taking responsibility for apologizing on behalf of all of Dilworth for the abuse that happened at the school in the past. In September 2019, Dilworth made its first public apology for the historical abuse that occurred at the school and for its consequences. And we have continued to apologize since that time. However, since then, we have learned more fully about the extent of the abuse and its impacts, so that we feel that we are today in a position to offer our community this apology. Initially, we did not have a roadmap for developing our response, and at times we acknowledged that we did not always get things right. Dilworth knows and understands a great deal more now. With the benefit of the information survivors have shared through the Royal Commission of Inquiry into Abuse in Care, the Dilworth Independent Inquiry, and valuable individual dialogue. Today, we are saying to all of you, from the depths of our hearts, that we are sorry. We are offering our apology in the hope that it'll contribute to healing and that it will show you that you have been heard and that you are believed. Each of you deserved care, respect, and dignity as children, but some of you were denied this by what was done to you at Dilworth. Today, as you share your time with us in this room, or listen online, or read these words another time, we hope to make clear that the abuse you were forced to endure was not your fault. It was the fault of some people at Dilworth who betrayed your trust and the trust of your mothers, your fathers, your families, and your whānau. You, the survivors of abuse at Dilworth, are innocent. It was your school that let you down and failed you by allowing horrible things to happen to you. Before continuing, we want to say thank you to the survivors who have worked with and guided us on the making of today's apology. We also thank you who participated in a recent Dilworth response survey or have shared their views with the response team. And we thank everyone who provided their testimony to the Royal Commission of Inquiry into Abuse and Care and the Dilworth Independent Inquiry. The reports of both of these serve as public records of terrible events that never should have been allowed to happen. We recognize your courage in sharing what you went through at Dilworth and your determination to be heard. Your accounts were heartbreaking, your words were powerful. We also acknowledge the courage of survivors who have engaged with the Dilworth Redress Program. We are now going to address the failures by Dilworth in the past that resulted in so many students being abused over so many years. In speaking today of these failures and offering our apology, we want to say, never again. Never again can we ignore or turn our eyes away from abuse or block up our ears to the cries for help that came from the students, their families, and whānau, and parents, particularly the courageous mothers who spoke the truth but were often treated with contempt. Dilworth failed over and over again to do what was right. It is important that we take the time now to speak openly about those failures, to own up to the harm caused by their perpetration, and to apologize for them. In addressing the ways in which Dilworth failed survivors, their families, and our community, it is with deep shame and sorrow that we acknowledge the list of failures, and this is a long list. Each on its own was a travesty. Taken as a whole, they speak of a school that failed to listen and investigate complaints, or if it did, failed to investigate thoroughly, failed to hear cries for help, failed to recognize the signs of abuse in boys who showed significant performance and or behavioral issues, failed to appropriately vet and manage its staff, failed to have child safety policies in place and enforce them, and failed to put the needs of boys in its care above the reputation of the school. What Dilworth often did instead was to bury, block, ignore, and deny the abuse. When mothers and others responsible for students complained, when boys reported what was being done to them, or when abused students misbehaved in class, often they were silenced, ridiculed, or punished. Instead of being heard with compassion and treated with care, some survivors, family, or whānau members were treated with disdain. A boy's cry for help was sometimes dismissed as disobedience, too often punished with excessive caning and gating with weekend leave being denied for extended periods. And these gatings created a further barrier to reporting abuse and had the effect of putting perpetrators in closer contacts with students. Particularly in the early days, a mother's expression of concern was sometimes turned upon her as a sign of ingratitude for the generosity of the school scholarship. On occasion, Dilworth used its position of power to make a mother who asked questions feel ashamed, dominated, and belittled. And she was left alone to harbor the guilt and knowing that she was right, that she tried to protect her son, but was unable to do so. In acting with such a profound absence of compassion, Dilworth compounded the effects of the abuse. We apologize for these failures to listen, to hear, and to take actions that would stop the abuse and protect the children in our care. We must also acknowledge that in the past, when Dilworth did take steps to address known abuse, its actions failed to prevent it happening again or ensure that the abusers answered for their crimes. This was often due to Dilworth giving priority to protecting the reputation of the school, point I noted earlier, or of individuals within the school. Instead, Dilworth imposed a code of silence reinforced by a culture of fear that prevented the proper investigation and prevention of abuse. In some cases, the abuser was permitted to depart the school, free of sanctions, free of punishment, and supported by references that did not tell the truth about him and his abusive behavior. The promotion of a military-style homophobic culture or the threat of a caning for expressions of difference or infringements of rules was ever present, left students fearful, anxious, and too often brutalized. Those who might have gained strength from expressing themselves and their culture were dissuaded from doing so or made to feel ashamed. The absence of proper and openly shared child safeguarding policies, complaints procedures, adequate scrutiny of staff appointments, or supervision of staff performance left abusers able to do what they did. The practice of burying information about known instances of abuse by not informing the trust board, police, or education authorities served to keep a tight lid on any open communication about what was happening at Dilworth. We acknowledged that the culture of silence was wrong, and it meant that the abusers kept abusing. We apologize for the failures of Dilworth to stop the abuse, disclose and share information, appropriately manage and supervise staff, and exercise responsible leadership. Dilworth gave insufficient priority to child safety concerns when vetting and appointing staff and those in voluntary roles or when making disciplinary decisions. Parents were kept at arm's length and seldom told about serious abuse complaints that their sons had made. In the 1990s, when Dilworth finally started documenting serious concerns about child student safety, it failed to allocate the increasing funding required to help address the issue. There was no recognition of the need for protective systems, such as a whistleblower policy, that might have allowed staff members to speak out about the abuse at Dilworth. After 1989, instead of fully appreciating the need for its own accountability mechanisms, Dilworth had a misplaced reliance on the Education Review Office to detect or raise the alarm about wrongdoing at the school. These failures over time had tragic consequences. The abusers were able to continue deceiving, grooming, and manipulating the trust placed in them, while also evading detection of their appalling and prolonged abuse of boys in their care. We apologize for Dilworth failing to make the right decisions and failing to take the right actions. I'm now going to speak about the ways in which these failures affected our community, starting as we must, with the impact on survivors. Survivors' innocence, hopes, and dreams. When you came to Dilworth, you probably carried the hopes and dreams of your families in Fano for the life you might have had as a student at this school and later as an adult. You had every right when you entered the school to believe that your education here would be a wonderful experience. But instead, what some of you encountered was a failure to protect your innocence, to nurture your potential, and your right to enter adulthood with confidence and optimism. Instead, your abusers inflicted pain, terror, and humiliation. Some of you may have left Dilworth carrying enduring memories of harm and injury, shame, and a loss of confidence and self-esteem. For some of you, this has affected your ability to cope with the big subsequent life challenges that we all encounter. Some men have taken their own lives. Anxiety and depression have led others to resort to drugs and alcohol to mask their pain. Some turn to crime. Your ability to trust in adults was damaged by the people who you should have been able to trust to protect you. For some, this betrayal of trust has impacted your personal relationships, including those with your parents, partners, and children. Today's apology cannot make up for what you have lost. For some of you, this may include your sense of potential, self-worth, Christian faith, friends at Dilworth, connection to the school's community, your trust in family and Fano, and your ability to enjoy life to its fullest. Yet we offer this apology in the sincere hope that what is said today honors the dignity of each and every survivor and acknowledges that the acts of abuse each of you suffered may have had lasting and often serious impacts on your adult lives. We apologize for the failure to protect survivors' innocence and for the many harms caused by abuse that was done to you. Mothers, fathers, family, and Fano. The mothers, fathers, grandparents, families, and Fano, whose children came to Dilworth, trusted this school to educate and provide opportunities for their sons that they might otherwise never have had. Dilworth was supposed to be a stable environment for their sons and to be almost like a family with strong Christian values. Parents believed the promises made by Dilworth that it would care for their sons, nurture their talents, and equip them to become young men ready to enter the world with purpose and confidence. They trusted Dilworth to provide a safe environment in which their sons could grow and flourish. We apologize for the failure to uphold the trust that mothers, fathers, grandparents, family, and whānau placed in Dilworth. To our founders, there are two people who we believe would be saddened beyond measure by the abuse perpetrated upon innocent children at Dilworth School. James and Isabella Dilworth had a vision for our school that was pure and good. They wanted to provide an education that would enable Dilworth's young men to become good and useful members of society. The abusers at Dilworth and Dilworth's failures to address the abuse failed their vision. We apologize for the betrayal of our founders and the failure to uphold their legacy. Our apology would be incomplete if we did not also acknowledge and speak about the impacts that the abuse at Dilworth School had on others. I'm going to turn now to that issue and what is today a community apology in the broadest sense. So, impacts on all our old boys. Those students who attended the school during the years of historical abuse, but perhaps did not suffer abuse themselves, have had to contend with a legacy of shame. Some might feel remorse about not having been aware of the abuse or not standing up for their vulnerable brothers. Some might be wrestling with the guilt of knowing that they, as a result of being groomed or bullied, became abusers of other students. Dilworth School for many years was a place where violence and humiliation was normalized. Students exposed to this culture should not be judged by their responses to it. Some survivors have spoken about their loss of faith, what could be described as spiritual abuse. Their fellow students have also shared this profound sense of loss, of being robbed of their relationship with God and the Anglican Church because of their experience at Dilworth. Dilworth became a school name that attached a stigma to old boys' childhood memories and education. Those who attended when the abuse was happening are often aware of the unspoken questions when others learn that they are Dilworth old boy, which is, were they abused? They have seen some of their abused friends continue to suffer. They have endured the loss of some of those friends, as some survivors have fallen into illness and despair and have been unable to keep going. Alongside more recent old boys, they have seen and heard their school become the subject of blanket news coverage as Operation Beverly and the subsequent inquiries and trials were reported. The resulting stress and inevitable tensions within the old boy community have created ruptures that will take a long time to heal, if ever. We apologize for all these impacts on Dilworth's old boy community. Staff. Some staff members of the past also bear a sense of shame for not knowing about or standing up against the abuse or not challenging effectively enough Dilworth's failure to deal with it when it was happening. Some live with the knowledge that they have tried repeatedly to warn others about what was happening, but were knocked back, ignored, or silenced. The emotional impacts are particularly strong for those who know that they themselves were groomed by the abusers and drawn into trusting them by their charisma and deception. They share with old boys who were also at Dilworth during the decades of abuse the awareness of stigma, the assumption that by having been a Dilworth staff member, they too might be perpetrators of the crimes for which others have been convicted, that unspoken question. Or they sense that they are judged for not doing more to stop what was happening. The Dilworth staff of today have worked tirelessly to develop, implement, and uphold policies and procedures to keep Dilworth students safe. Headmaster Dan Reddix will speak about those initiatives after I conclude our apology. Yet they have also had to deal with conflicting feelings about their place of work. There is the discomfort that comes from seeing former staffs with whom some might have worked named as perpetrators of abuse, and the nagging sense of guilt by association. Some current staff have spoken about feeling isolated, vulnerable, and inadequately supported over the past 6 years. As the abuse came to light and grabbed the headlines, some struggled to reconcile working at Dilworth. Today's Dilworth staff have dedicated enormous time, energy, and professionalism to their roles and to upholding the school's commitment to zero tolerance of abuse of any kind. Dilworth trustees today acknowledge and thank them for their work. We apologize for the negative impacts on the many good and decent people who have been or are currently staff at the Dilworth School and Dilworth Trust Office. Family and whānau of today. We've spoken of the suffering felt by and harm done to the parents, particularly mothers, families, and whānau of the survivors. While the families of today, students, do not carry with them the weight of harm done to their sons in the past, their decision to enroll their boys at Dilworth cannot have been easy. In the wake of the criminal court findings about the abuse of the past and the resulting news reports, the revelations arising from the Royal Commission of Inquiry into Abuse in Care and the Dilworth Independent Inquiry, there will have been times when parents ask themselves, is Dilworth really the right school for my boy? The fact that so many families have decided to put their trust in the Dilworth of today testifies to their courage. They have asked questions, they've become part of the fabric of the school, and they are contributing to efforts to lift and hold our school to the highest standards. We apologize for the negative impacts of parents, families, and whānau of students past and present. And now the students of today. It has also taken courage and bravery to be a Dilworth student of today. Wearing the school's uniform outside the green gates has exposed our young men to taunts and name-calling. They have also been the objects of hateful social media activity. They have had to face repeatedly seeing their school buildings in media reports about the abuse. They feel the impact when they go off campus and face questions about abuse in conversation with their peers from other schools. Students at some other Christian-affiliated schools have also felt a shadow cast upon them by what happened at Dilworth. They've had to deal with the speculation about the risks of a faith-based education and assumptions about the safety of their own schools. Each Dilworth student of today is hyper-alert to the risks of abuse and the ways to detect, report, and prevent it. This vigilance will stand them in good stead, yet it must also be acknowledged that the failures of the trust boards and school leaders of the past have colored the experience of those at the school today. We apologize for the negative impacts on the Dilworth students of today. And in our broader community, the will of James Dilworth and groundbreaking work of Isabella Dilworth in the early years of the school underpin the school of today, the scholarships it provides, and the development and maintenance of the campus facilities. We are fortunate in having that legacy. We are also fortunate in having people today who have chosen to contribute, support, and promote Dilworth. Many of them are old boys, alumni who have wanted to deepen their ongoing connection with the school. Our community of benefactors and supporters has stood by the school as the abuse of the past has been revealed and finally openly discussed. There must have been times when they thought about walking away. By maintaining their solidarity with the Dilworth of today, they have given strength to the board, our school, and our students. We must also acknowledge that what happened at Dilworth in the past has had an impact on the trust placed in the wider faith-based community. We apologize for the negative impacts on our community and the wider faith-based community. So, in conclusion, the words "we apologize" have been repeated many times in the past 30 minutes. We want those words to reverberate and carry the full force of our regret beyond this moment. The failures of the past were many, and we have not talked about all of them. We've only talked about some of them. And we acknowledge that in making this apology, we've been unable to reference each and every wrong. A community apology, by definition, misses all the individual pathways during Dilworth and after Dilworth that each survivor has had, and their family in there. But we want to assure you that we are truly sorry for all the abuse that took place at Dilworth School and all the failures to prevent it and all the harm that was done. We are indebted to survivors for their bravery and commitment to speaking about what happened to them. We hope that in offering our acknowledgement and apology, we provide some measure of relief and help everyone in our community to move forward in their own way. Let me say again, it is with profound and sincere remorse that we apologize for the abuse that happened at Dilworth School and the harm, the losses, and the pain that it has caused you. Many survivors have told us that one of the things that keep them awake at night is the concern that the abuse that they have to endure might occur again at Dilworth. But we want to assure you that Dilworth School today is 100% committed to keeping our students safe. And our headmaster, Dan Reddix, will speak in a moment about how we are achieving that. Thank you for your time and your grace that you have given me and us in listening.